Paragraph spacing and line spacing is a really useful tool in Word, but one that a lot of beginners don't ever bother with. But if you learn to fine-tune your paragraph and line spacing, you'll have a lot more control over how your document and how your page looks.
Paragraph and line spacing can make your documents more legible. Pages with text crowded on it will be much easier to read if you use line spacing to spread them out. You can also use paragraph and line spacing to control and fit things on a page without crowding them. Let's look at this through Bad Analogy Land. Let's say we have a garden. We're going to plant some tomatoes in our garden. So we put them in the ground in nice, neat rows. We still have some more room, so let's put some carrots in the ground. We move over a little bit and plant our carrots in nice, neat rows as well. Notice, however, we put a little bit of a gap between the tomatoes and the carrots so we could tell which section is which, where one ends and where the other begins. Let's compare our garden to text. Here we've got rows of text. There's some space between the rows, but groups of text, there's more space in between the groups of text, so you can see where one group of text ends and the next one begins. We call these groups of text in Word paragraphs, more or less. And the space between the lines within a paragraph is called line spacing. However, that big gap between the two groups of text, between the two paragraphs, is called paragraph spacing. What is a paragraph? A paragraph is basically when you hit enter. You start a whole new paragraph. So when you're typing, the line, you keep typing and typing, and when you get to the end of the line, Word starts you on the next line. However, when you hit the enter key, Word pushes you down to a new line, and where you're going to start a whole new paragraph. And every time you hit enter, you're ending one paragraph and starting a new one. So the spaces that you have in between the lines within one paragraph, you can adjust using line spacing. But the spaces, the white areas between different paragraphs, you need to adjust using paragraph spacing. So just like with our garden, when we planted all those rows of plants, you could say the space between those rows is line spacing, but we created a bigger section between the two sections of the garden, so you could tell where one section ends and where the other one begins, and we can liken that to paragraph spacing. One last note. Line spacing is measured in the height of a line. So your line spacing can be 1, it could be 1.5 lines, it could be 2 lines, which is called double spacing, and so on. Paragraph spacing, however, is measured in what's called points. Points are pretty much little dots. They're a fraction of an inch. So however many points you have in between the paragraphs, that's the measurement that you'll use. So in this case, there are 12 dots or 12 points in between the paragraphs.